Hey everyone, it's so good to see you here when we talk about IMG questions. Both of us are actually international medical graduates, and my name is Rick. I'm currently a PGY2 here at Duke. I'm originally from Germany, did medical school in Germany, came to the US for some research and for some clinical internships, and then studied a public policy master in Boston before moving down to Durham about a year and a half ago now to start residency. And I'm joined today by Samar, who's a PGY1, but Samar, take it away.
Hi, I'm Samar. I am born and raised in Egypt, graduated medical school in Egypt, and also came for research right after med school. Did 3 years of research at Yale and came down here at Duke for residency.
Great, thank you. We're very, very excited to just go through some of the questions we received as part of our IMG open house during the current application season. But we are almost certain that some of the questions will be relevant next year and the year after next year. But as you know, we get more and more questions from you guys, we might just record a new video over time. But I think like one of the most frequently asked questions we get is, what was interviewing like here at Duke? Samar, do you want to start telling us about your interview experience?
Absolutely. So I think it was one of the best, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, I picked the program based on the interview, right? Or I ranked it on the top based on the interview. I honestly think it was so much fun. It was more like of a conversation, just like trying to get to know each other, like you could feel like the connection and the vibe, and honestly I think it was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was quite the same for me. I really enjoyed talking to faculty members as well as residents. I thought it was very conversational. It was not so much like, here are the check boxes, right? Like, this is what we want to know from you. It was more like, do we get along, right? Is the program like a good fit? Do they like you? But also like, do you like the program, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like 4 years of your time which you spend together, which is quite some time. So you really want to know if like, you know, if there's some sense of, you know, if you can talk to people and you can really interact. I think one of the questions we also get often is like, if we are, while we were interviewing, if we were asked any medical questions, and the answer for me is no. I wasn't asked any medical questions. Samar, were you asked any medical questions?
Of course not. Absolutely not. Yeah. No, I honestly, like, it was just about like, how did I come here? Like a lot about my background and where I'm going and what do I want to do, and like just basically if we get along or not. That's it.
And I think like the interview can sometimes also serve for you as like, you know, your opportunity to make the program aware of, like, as Samar was saying, where you come from, but also where you want to go to, right? Like make the program kind of understand why the program is the next step in your career and why it has to be Duke University. Like, what is unique about Duke? What is, you know, what do you want to do? How can we support you? And I think like the interview is just like the perfect time of like, you know, getting a sense of if the program can really help you to get to the next stage of your professional, but also of your private life. Which brings us to the question, like, what does an ideal candidate look like? We get this question quite frequently as well.
Oh, so I should go or should you go?
I can share my anecdote.
Okay.
I think like one way to think about it is, you know, an ideal candidate, there's, you know, it's not based on scores. It's not based on like when you graduated. It's not based on your expertise. It's really like you as a person, like holistically, right? Like imagine yourself in the ED Saturday night at 3 a.m. Are you like, what could you be one of our colleagues who I would enjoy talking to at 3 a.m. on Saturday night, a busy night in the ED? And do I think it would work well between the two of us, and we could have, you know, not only professional conversations, but also like we could work together nicely and like learn from each other and with each other, right? And so I think, you know, this is like one criteria, I guess, for an ideal candidate.
Right. I honestly want to add like something else, which is like your capacity to adapt and your capacity to learn. And if you're a good learner or not, do you absorb things around you, or do you want to do things like your way? Are you like rigid, like stuff like that? So I think it means a lot that you are coming to learn, and when you show that, like you are open, you are like absorbing of information, I think that's really important and important, like as a criteria.
Yeah. I think another thing to keep in mind is that Duke doesn't have like a particular type of applicant they like. If you look at our programs, you see that there are IMGs in each year, people from all parts of the world, from all cultural backgrounds. I mean, obviously not from all, but like from many diverse backgrounds, right? Not like, in terms of what people are interested in, right? Like some people are really into clinical stuff, some other people are more into advocacy work, some other people yet again are more into research. And so I think Duke has the opportunity to offer to, you know, nice programs or a nice program to all these candidates. But really, like if you look at our residency program, what's really fascinating is that there is a mix of people with all different backgrounds, and as a single person probably we wouldn't be successful, but as a whole, as a program, we are successful because, you know, we learn from each other and can learn from our expertise. I think that's another thing.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. I don't think like there are two people who have like research interests that honestly overlap, or like research background that overlap. Like you're doing global health and I'm doing neuroimaging, and Alexander is doing like basic research and like cell-based research, and like the list goes on and on. Like it's not that, oh, here we prefer that kind of research versus something else.
Yeah. And I think then maybe the last part of the answer could be, well, you know, we want people who are really passionate about psychiatry. Like passion is, you know, it's very important. But then once again, right? I mean, you know, how do we define passion? Well, it's really about your past experiences and what you have done, and like what. Just tell us, you know, the story why you think psychiatry is the next step, and like why you think psychiatry here at Duke is the best next step. So, you know, there are many ways of how you can be an ideal candidate, I guess.
Right.
Samar, are you aware of any cutoff scores for, you know, your USMLE, like not USMLE, the steps, the board?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think average scores also are welcomed, and it's not like the application is not looked at analytically at all. Again, like they're looking for the person and like all what the person has done and all what the person is willing to do, and what can they offer. And like Rick said, in terms of passion, like it gets tough, like sometimes it's hard, and like if you can find excitement and happiness in that, I think that's what passion means. So I think that's important because residency can be hard.
Yeah. Which also I think goes along with the question some people say or ask us, is there a cutoff for, like, you know, years since you graduated from medical school? I think once again, like, you know, the question is not so much if there's a cutoff, but more so, you know, what is your level of comfort? If you feel like, you know, it has been some time since you graduated from medical school and you would benefit from some clinical experience, or the majority of your time was kind of like spent in a different country, in a different cultural environment, in a different context, I think it makes a lot of sense to actually consider like an observership or an internship. It's not necessarily the case that you have to do it, but it's always, you know, if you think about it, it's not only you're doing it, you know, mandatory because, you know, someone asked you to do it, but really what you want to think about is like, are you ready to be an intern and a doctor from day one on, when you are exposed to patients, when you are exposed to like a new system, and when you are exposed potentially to a new medical record software and all these kind of questions, right? Okay, great. I think one of the other questions we get quite frequently is how adaptive is the program to residents' individual needs? Is there like any flexibility at all, or is it like all people do the same?
Honestly, I think like this is one of the best places that offers this, because like not just that there's so much resources like in terms of like PIs and professors and people who are doing all sorts of research, covers everything. Also, other than the like materialistic resources, so everything basically is here, like ECT, TMS, imaging, and also like public health, um, like any kind of research, you will find an expert here, and you will find the materials for it. So I think like that's a thing that like differs here from a lot of other places, because usually like every university would have a niche, or like every department would have like just this one thing that they're focused on. So, and also other than that, I think like here the program does appreciate like individuality and what you're bringing, and like they want you to, like if you're bringing something here, they will want you to do it, you know, or like teach someone else, or like include other people, or like just keep doing it. Basically, I think you're gonna always be encouraged to do that.
Mm-hmm. I think like, one of the cool things about the program is that beginning in year one, and actually both Samar and I get to enjoy it, is that we can have elective time, which is, also not usual for some, programs, but like, Duke thought it's a good idea to start very early on to have elective time and do what people are interested in and to support you in your interests. And then, once you get to the third and the fourth year, you have more than like 30 or 35 different electives you can choose from. And then I think, for people in the research track, and which, I can just like squeeze in another question, like for the research track, do you need a PhD? No, you don't. I don't have a PhD, and then I'm still in the research track. And we can talk about the research track in a little bit. But it's very possible, for example, if you're really into research and really interested in research, then you get more time off clinical services, which you can then use for research through the research track. Or if you're really into like psychotherapy, right? There's a psychotherapy track. Right. Or if you're really interested in clinical medical education, as both Samar and I are, you're part of the clinician educator track. Which is actually run by the program, the psychiatry program. Then on a higher level, on a GME office level, there's even a program which they call MELT, the Medical Education and Leadership track, which also like really is about providing medical education and like medical teaching, I guess. But yeah, just to give you an example, like for my second year, I get at least like 8 to 9 weeks off for my second year to do research, and other people who do research get time off as well. So again, once again, the program is very flexible and like on working with you, whatever your needs are and whatever you want to do. So Samar, what are some of the challenges IMGs face here at Duke, or I guess in general in the US?
Oh, I guess that you're like, you're going in so many directions at the same time. Like you're trying to figure out like residency and visa, and like there's so much like on your mind, like in many different ways. And I guess that just like if you're not careful with your like energy and how you spend it, and like your self-care, or you're not recharging, you can absolutely get burned out. So like you're getting pulled in every direction, basically. Yeah. So definitely that. And also another challenge is negativity. Like I have seen that a lot, where like people would share for say like stuff like, yeah, oh, it's not gonna happen, or it's impossible, or like all of that kind of like attitude. I think that's definitely one of the challenges. Like if you can move on past that, I think it's would be great.
Yeah, I think it's a very vigorous process to go through in terms of your visa application, but also in terms of your visa renewals, your annual visa renewals, if you decide to go abroad and then want to come back to the United States. The program supports you. Again, I think like, it is almost intuitive that the program supports you, because remember what we told you a few minutes ago when we told you that the program consists of like people from like many places of the world, right? And like many different backgrounds. So the program itself is obviously interested in supporting all these people and like learning from them and with them, but also just support them through some very easy administrative things like a visa application process.
Yeah.
I think like one caveat to make is that at this point, Duke sponsors J1 visa through ECFMG. And there are different types of visas, as you might know, but the J1 visa doesn't allow you to moonlight, which for some applicants it might be a relevant financial consideration to make. And I think it's just like good to be clear about this from the beginning. But not being able to moonlight doesn't mean you receive inferior training. It just like means you're not allowed to work extra hours for financial reasons mostly, but we are still receiving the same amount of the same amount of training than our colleagues from here.
Right.
Samar, we also get asked quite often like what the program does about residency wellness, and I guess with our current program director Heather Vestal, we have one of the wellness experts here at Duke. Do you want to like tell us maybe from your perspective, like what you perceive to be very nice when it comes to residency wellness here at Duke?
I think like one of the most crucial things that the residency program offers is resident wellness. And I think like when they're trying to get a cohort like back, they try to like find people who would get along in some way, or I don't know, maybe it was just us, maybe it was just you guys, I don't know. But there is a lot, like at the beginning, there's always bonding activities where people meet, and like there is this push for making like a team, and like this push that everyone comes together like as a community, if you might call it that. So I think that's important, especially that a lot of people would be moving away. So having like this base of like friends to fall on, that's huge, like for wellness. And like how the program actually supports that is amazing beyond so many, like, yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
So they have done that through multiple activities and parties in the beginning, right before COVID was coming back, before the Delta variant, but now Delta variant is coming. So there's mindfulness series that goes through every, I think, some Wednesdays. I'm not really sure if it's weekly or not. And there's so many like lectures that always like it ends up talking about like how should you take care of yourself, and how should you or how can you, or what are the resources for you. So also another thing, which is resident wellness days, which is like a couple of days that you get throughout the year where you only have half a day, and the rest of your day you're allowed to leave and basically like do whatever you want. So
True.
Nice.
Yeah, I think like other things which come to mind are the residency-wide meetings at least once a month. As Samar was saying, we get to know each other across classes. I mean, obviously there's a tendency to work with some people more closely, like PGY1s and PGY2s. They're both like working mostly inpatient, and PGY3s and PGY4s, they are mostly working outpatient. But there's still a lot of like crosstalk between all the PGY levels. There are sport groups across PGY levels. There are, groups of like, just like social activity groups. I think, one other thing which really stands out to me is the program support in terms of like having mentors. Like they're really making sure that you get a mentor you can work with, from an academic perspective, from a professional perspective, but also from a private perspective, because we all have times where we just need someone else to debrief or to brainstorm with, or just to get inspired by. And by the way, like the inspiration goes both ways, right? Because as much as we learn from our mentors, we also sometimes are the one mentoring our mentors when they are mentees, which is also like not, I think, it doesn't, I think it stands out to me that there is willingness
there's mutual benefit.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Once again, that is mutual benefit.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing which kind of stands out is just like the way we support each other, as Sama was saying. And I think it's just like, psychiatry is potentially more prone to supporting each other. And I'm probably widely stereotyping and generalizing. But I think it really stands out to me here at Duke that there is such a strong support system with all these activities. And if you want to learn more, you can certainly go on our homepage. One thing I want to mention is that over the last couple of years, there was a quite a shift between rotations where we mostly did service, and the shift was towards rotations to rotations where we get a lot of education and there's a lot of learning. So really, I think like, all our rotations are now about learning and not so much to just like serve and like do patient care, but just part of our job, obviously. And then the same kind of like, the same idea applies to like call shifts, like the number of calls has been decreased significantly. And again, with the idea to just like give more free time and wellness to residents, especially on calls or like, on weekends when there is not much learning which could happen. And I think this like stands out to me quite a lot. Sama, we're almost at the end. I guess like one other question we always get is like, so why Duke, right? I mean, there are so many programs you can choose from. What makes the program unique? And I think maybe, I can say like 2 or 3 things, but like things which stand out for me or stood out for me were the opportunity to train at like 3 different training sites, which is like Big Duke, the university hospital, which is the VA, the military hospital, and which is Central Regional Hospital, which is the state hospital. And I think, each of these institutions comes with its own population, with its own challenges, but also with its own learnings, with its own attendings and with its own systems. So again, it goes back to the idea that, Duke is very flexible in terms of what we can offer you. And it's partly because you can train at like these 3 different institutions. Another thing which I find really fascinating, again, goes back to the idea that there is so much elective time and flexibility to work with residents on their kind of what they want and what they need. And the elective time, the research track time, if you decide to do a research track, in general, to be able to go into a research track or to go into like a clinician educator track or psychotherapy track. I mean, these are all the things which come to my mind. Sama, do you have anything else?
Absolutely. I think there's so many other things, but like my brain is not really working well right now. But definitely the diversity in terms of like the clinical and the academic part of the institution is just, it's amazing. And honestly, like how the curriculum is put for the AHD and it's super focused on like the clinical application of it, and like how it just like, it's not just like some lectures, they are actually beneficial, and process groups and cheer conference. And like I think I'm not like saying, oh, we're a family kind of thing, but definitely there is a very strong bond between residents, and I think it's by the sponsorship of the program through like the activities that the program does. So yeah, that's awesome.
Maybe another thing, apart from the diverse background of the residents and the experience we have here, another thing which stands out to me is the ability to train in medicine. Not only because we have like medicine built in our curriculum in the first year anyway, but for example, we have also like a med psych service where you do both medicine and psychiatry, which is, if you ask residents across years, I think it's one of the most rewarding and enjoyable services. It is quite heavy in terms of like hours you work per week. But I would say every hour I spent on this service was a well-spent hour. I never thought it's like, oh my God, it's like still 10 hours until I can go home. It was very educational, and I think the program is very strong with like these training, the training in medicine. And then I guess the last question I have, Sama, is about how much experience did you have before you came to the program? Like, do you need many years of psychiatry experiences, or what happened with you?
Oh, that's a great question, Rick. Like, what do you mean by experience? Like, you mean in psychiatry, whether clinical or research, or like, what kind of experience are you talking about?
I guess all of the experience. Did you have a lot of like exposure to psychiatry before you came here?
I mean, I guess to an extent, I did like a couple of years of research, and definitely like I was exposed to populations there, and yeah, and like I had an observership right after, like during COVID actually,
Oh.
for 3 months, and so this is how exposed I am basically.
Yeah, imagine the applicants will watch the video in a few years, and they're like, "What does she talk about when she talks about COVID?"
Right? Yeah.
Uh,
Like, yeah, before and after COVID, and also before the Delta variant and after the Delta variant,
oh
and
God,
just
yeah.
like
So many time marks. I think like there's indeed like a variety between residents in terms of like length of time, number of experience, and the nature of their experience, right? Like some of us have a lot of research psychiatry experience, some of us have a lot of clinical experience, some of us have more advocacy experience. Once again, like this is what the program is really made of, right? Like diverse experience. I think the most important thing here is really to be able to talk about your experience and like how this experience was meaningful to you and how this led to your passion to go into psychiatry and to choose Duke as one of your options. Sama, thank you so much for doing this podcast or like a video cast with me.
Yeah.
Maybe as a last question before we say goodbye, do you have like any last minute advice to applicants who are currently in the process of applying or think about applying to the program in a few months?
I think if I have an advice, is definitely apply. Definitely like put it on the top. I think it's a great place, whether it's like the environment, the vibe, and the connections, or or like the city itself and all the green and the stuff around us. I think it's beautiful on a lot of levels, and also it's really sunny. So like when I came here, I was like, oh my God, why am I so happy? So yeah, I think definitely put Duke on the top.
Cool. I think like, maybe some more technical advice after you advertise Durham already would be, think about strategically about your letters of recommendations, right? Each of the letters should add like a different puzzle piece to your story, like tell something new, which you didn't know about you. I would definitely agree with what Sama said, like just apply and make your application as authentic as possible. We really want to see you as a person, and there's nothing worse than making up stories and then we get to know you and it just doesn't work as well as we envisioned. So be authentic. I think sometimes it might
used to be like, oh, be authentic. Oh, that's not true. You have to like act like you're smarter than you are, that you're more like polished than you are. No, it's not like that. You seriously, because like all the act, it can be absolutely dropped down like in a second, and it's very easy to spot. So when you're authentic, that means you're confident about yourself, and that's what it really is important, is like, are you happy with yourself? Are you confident about what you're doing, what you did? Are you sure about what you're doing? And I guess like that's why authenticity is so important.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think the interviews which are most enjoyable, and this goes back to the first or second question, what makes a good candidate, it's just like the ones which are authentic, right? So maybe potentially some other advice is like in terms of your medical school education, it might be important to highlight some aspects about the system and the country where you come from, just to make people understand your background better. And it's not like we cannot read and cannot do research about a country and like the systems, but really if you think something unique stands out, I think that's very important. And then I guess two more things. One is about interview season, don't be disappointed if you don't get interviews at the institutions you were hoping to get interviews at. I mean, one advice I would give, if you're really excited about one institution, don't hesitate to reach out throughout interview season and continuously express your interest and just like, email people. But I would also say, do not forget, it takes literally one program for you to match, right? So one interview could be all you need. So don't make it a number game, but really focus on the program which you really would enjoy to be part of. And most importantly, do not forget that we are excited to see you as our future colleagues anyway, no matter where you train. Of course, we would love for you to be here at Duke, but at the same time, we would be equally excited to see you at one of the future conferences where we meet psychiatrists and doctors. So good luck with applying. Samar, thank you so much for joining me. And
good luck, everyone.
Good luck, and we will be available if any questions come up. And in the either in the bottom here, on the top there, or left or right, who knows where. But we will send some links for you to also look at our Instagram account, our homepage, and these kind of things. Thank you, and
Awesome.
good luck.
Thank you, Rick. Bye.
Bye.